Morning everyone, it's Matt here. Hope everyone's well. I'm actually out on holiday at the moment. I'm in Ruckinge in Kent, and I was just going to take you around the village of Ruckinge. I'm actually in the garden of where we're staying at the moment, the old post office. It's the most amazing place. Let me just show you. This is the top end of the garden, and it's basically a wonderful wilderness. There are plums and damsons, apples, cooking apples, all sorts of things, and a great place for the kids to play. But this wasn't really what I was here to show you. Let's go down into the village. Ruckinge today is a quiet village on the low hills just to the north of Romney Marsh. Its position close to Ashford means it is a popular commuter village. The old post office that I've been staying in is now a holiday home. The pub, the Blue Anchor, has recently been converted into a house as well. There are a number of historic houses in the village, some of which date back to the late medieval times. As well as its Anglican church, the village boasts a Methodist church and, according to the parish magazine, a busy social life based around the village hall, which you'll see later in the video. I'm going to take you down a little footpath here towards the end of the village. I should say that Ruckinge is right on the edge of the Romney Marsh, sitting as it does on the green sand hills that bound the northern edge of the marsh. These cockerels are always very vocal. Now down here we have, it's either a llama or an alpaca, and I'm not quite sure which. It's either very friendly or very hungry. I'm never quite sure which one it is. I'm just going to take you up here to say hello. But this one is often very enthusiastic to see you. And this one here is a bit shyer, but they want to be fed. And there are a number of signs around that says, "Don't feed them," so I don't. I'm very sorry, I won't be feeding you today. Sorry, it's a little windy. Just to the south of the village is the marsh proper. And a way to sort of differentiate, I suppose, between Romney Marsh and civilised population is the Royal Military Canal, which we're just about to cross here. The Military Canal was actually built to try and stop Napoleonic Wars, though of course by the time they finished it, Napoleon had stopped trying to invade us, if he ever was going to. So today it's a 22-mile long canal that reaches from Rye in the west to Hyde in the east, and it follows what's called the Saxon shoreline, because this was here really the original coast back in Saxon times. Romney Marsh has been reclaimed over the years, and great storms changed it all, and certainly by about the 16th century it's pretty much like you see today in terms of its reclaimed land. It's quite fen-like in places and incredibly flat. What we'll do now is we'll walk back up to Ruckinge Church. Obviously around here there's a lot of stories of the smugglers and what have you, and Ruckinge had its fair share of that as well, I think. Absolutely laden with blackberries. So a little footpath here just goes up to the church. And this is where I see if I can climb a stile. with a gimbal. There we go. I think that worked. So there's a whole row of villages that line the hills here, from Appledore almost all the way down to Hythe, and most of them have a stout looking medieval church. Oh, over another style. Ruckinge being no exception. One thing you notice around here, there's a lot of power lines. There is, of course, the power station at Dungeness, the nuclear power station. And I wonder if all lines lead that way. But it does mean that sometimes you have interesting garden ornaments. Never quite sure if I'd want that in my garden. Right, into the churchyard now, if I can get through this gate. Just a view looking down while I try and sort this gate out. Just looking over the flat area of the marsh. And here is the rather lovely church at Ruckinge, dedicated to Mary Magdalene. Due to the COVID situation, it's not really open at the moment, I don't think. I think it's open on a Saturday. I'm filming this on a Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. Yes, it's Wednesday. But I have been there a couple of years ago when we stayed before. I'll try and remember to put a couple of photos up. So I'm just going to take you around the church this way, as there's an interesting grave marker I wanted to show you here. I mean, the graves are usually otherwise in their more usual forms, but there's one here.
This monument marks the graves of James and William Ransley. They were members of the Aldington gang of smugglers. They were hanged for smuggling in 1800. But such was their local influence, they were buried in the churchyard.
Also, the church has a couple of very lovely Norman doors. Or doorways, I should say. There's obviously a modern door. There's some lovely detail on this one. The village is also famous for being one of the first points of the triangulation for the Ordnance Survey. A number of these things, the famous bits of the village, are depicted on this picture, which obviously isn't completely accurate. And sadly, something typical of a lot of churches at the moment. Although that is changing. Lots of gates today. I was just going to go along here and just show you one more thing outside the village hall. What's interesting about these villages along here is even if they've lost their pub, their shops, maybe even in a couple of cases their church, they all seem to have thriving village halls and quite a community from that. Very unusual that a sleepy village like this would have claims to fame to smugglers, the Ordnance Survey, and also an important part in relation to traction engines and steamrollers, as I will show you just up here.
This is the village hall, which is normally a hub for the village and the local area in non-COVID times. There is a plaque to the front of the hall erected in 1951 to commemorate Thomas Aveling. Who is he, you may well ask? He lived on a farm for some years in the parish, but today is well known as the father of the steam traction engine and steam roller, having invented it back in 1860. His company, Aveling and Porter, became the largest manufacturer of steamrollers in the world by the early 1900s. Hope you enjoyed my little tour around the village of Ruckinge. If you like what you see, please follow, like, subscribe, leave me a comment, and I will catch up with you guys soon with another video. Cheers, take care.